Hello, everybody. Welcome to the As Above, So Below show. My name's Meg Moonbeam, and we're here, of course, with Ashala. Hi, Ashala. How are you?
Hi, Meg. I'm hanging in there. How are you doing, dear?
Same. I'm hanging in there as well. I just got back from a road trip where I was in the States, literally just landed, coming on live right now. Just got in the door like 20 minutes ago.
Oh
So,
my gracious.
yeah,
What?
so I'm excited to be here, excited to see all of you, well, be with all of you in
Yeah.
this very energetic day, as we're going to be talking about. Oh my goodness. So thank you all so much for joining live, or if you're watching the replay. And as always, we want to mention, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Beyond Mystic YouTube and Rumble channels. And Ashala and I both offer consultations that are available over at consultations.beyondmystic.net. And the link is in the description box below. You can go check that out. Ashala does amazing psychic tarot readings. And I offer, of course, personal astrology readings. So you guys can go check that out. And we've got discount code Beyond Mystic that you can use to get 10% off. So, and also want to mention, we have a new Astrology Level 1 that I've just put out, a new and improved, updated version, Introduction to Western Astrology. So that's available over on the Beyond Mystic Academy. Link should be in the description box, or you just go to beyondmystic.academy. And I think it's for this week only. We've got a 30% off discount code, which is Astro30, all in one word. So astrology, as the tarot, as all the things that we talk about, all the woo stuff is going to be a part of the future. So if you're being called to learn more, go check that out at beyondmystic.academy. Ashala, how are we doing? How's your day?
I also just had to get out for an hour or so and go for a walk and just ground because I have been feeling it. Wow. Like in every way, almost yeah, I want to say I was tuned into Janine and Jean-Claude last night with those psychic attacks and just feeling into that. Not so much. I feel like I had some of that earlier in the summer, and I did a really good job of just being like, no, you are not welcome here. I didn't have anything as extreme as some of what they were talking about, but I definitely felt huge energy and really the importance of like being very I want to say having really good boundaries and just being like, no, this is not okay. Back off. Like you're stronger than those energies, believe it or not. And the belief that we need to be very afraid of all these things. This is part of what keeps us, yeah, basically afraid and limited in our power.
Wow. So that was on their show last night that they did. They were talking
Yeah.
about psychic Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch that one yet, but that definitely
Yeah.
theme.
You as well, Meg?
Yes. And I'm not like getting psychically attacked like crazy and feeling it and feeling all screwed up, but definitely having some people around me experiencing that very intensely. And it's interesting how some of the signs we, in the show As Above, So Below, we talk about the astrology with the tarot, all the woo, all of it together. I definitely notice some signs are more susceptible to kind of psychic attack, not to just put it all on the astrology, but is that something that you notice as well, Ashala, or how do you notice it with people?
Well, I think that it could be that maybe we all have the predisposition for it, but some people get very wound into anxiety about it. So to me, it's not so much just like what I say about challenging dreams, nightmares. It's not so much that it happens. It's the story that we start building about why it's happening, who's after us, how powerless they're making us, that we're victims of this. If we can sort of realize, actually, sometimes I think these things happen to show us our strength. So I believe that you could speak to this better than I can, but there are signs that will get a lot more kind of triggered and anxious and go down all those negative spirals, and other signs that'll just be like, no, man, I'm strong, back off, right?
Yeah, definitely. I totally resonate with that. And someone here says this looks to be pre-recorded. Not pre-recorded. We are live. We are
No, we're live.
live and thriving right now with you guys in this crazy freaking moment where I think like craziest moment ever to be going live for a show. I do want to mention there will be a special show with Jean-Claude and Janine at, I believe, 9 p.m. on the Rumble channel. I think I will join in for a segment. I think JC asked me to pop on, but they'll be live for probably a really long show all about the election and keeping
Oh
that
my
stuff. Going to be
God.
wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is the election moment, and there's already starting to be, I think, states probably starting to be called. Let us know in the live chat, because Ashala and I are doing the show. We can't be like looking at Twitter, looking at what else is going on. Let us know if there's major developments going on in the live chat, so we can be aware of what's going on, if you guys don't mind. But I love, Ashala, that you're bringing up psychic attacks right away, because that was actually something that I was going to say with the astrology of today. Is this is a huge, I guess, psychic attack moment or dark arts moment, but I want to be very clear that I don't think the dark arts people, I like to call them the dark arts people, they're not going to be successful, in my personal feeling, in whatever they're trying to do today, right?
Yeah.
So just to preface that a little bit, Ashala and I spoke really briefly before we went live. There's, some bomb threats that have been going off at certain election polling stations. There's tabulators and machines that aren't working. There's already a lot of funny business going on.
Already a lot of funny business and like psyching people out, right? So much, just like psyching out. Even with, I noticed that there was that threat that there was going to be a hurricane down in the southeast again. And it's like, oh, it's going to thwart the election, and people aren't going to go out to vote because they have to evacuate and all this. And it's like, I don't know. Please let us know, because I was trying to tune in with a couple of my clients that are down there just to get the inside scoop on, is that actually what's happening?
Right.
Yeah. But what I noticed, what I could determine when I looked at what's going on with the supposed, weather alerts, not to say that nothing can happen, but it just felt like it's now they're talking about it's coming tomorrow. So it's like, if you're trying to kind of get people to go, oh, I probably shouldn't go because it's supposed to be bad weather, maybe I better, or, oh, they're threatening, oh, could be a bomb threat, or, it's like, to me, when I see all of that interference, I'm like, okay, this is big business happening here. This is like, they are threatened, is what I'm getting. And just like the guides are saying to me, just like when you've got like a dog that has a vicious tendency, and if you show your fear, it's going to attack you.
Right.
Or even if it does try to attack you and you like no, back off. Like if you're strong, they will. If you try to attack them back, then you'll get into a fight. But if you just hold your ground and be very strong with a good boundary, that's what we're dealing with right now, is what it feels like.
That feels so accurate, Ashala, and I think is very, very wise words, because it can feel scary when there's an energy or a person kind of coming from a darker place or a shadow place in attack mode. That can be like really freaky, but I think that was a very profound truth that you just said of, it's coming from a weak place. It's coming from a weak spot. Right? So that's where any kind of attack that might be happening, it can be thwarted really by our intention and being strong in our own energy and being like, I don't accept this, actually.
Yeah.
Right.
And Janine was saying she actually had to get kind of like pretty like, hey, back off, and swearing a bit and everything, right? It's like, I mean, wherever you go with your personal power, I think all of us at some point in our lives, it's that mama bear energy, right? It's like at some point in our lives, we've all felt that, what it feels like to go, no.
Right.
And this is what my sense is, right?
Definitely. Really, before we get into doing a reading for the collective based on where we're at, and we're also going to do readings for each of the, elemental sign groups as we usually do for the week ahead. That'll be our theme. Interesting question here by Lynn. Do you suppose these bad experiences are in the lower timelines?
Yeah, let's look at that, eh? Shall we look at that?
Yeah.
I was just having a conversation about this earlier today, the difference between the different dimensions. And it really brought me to an awareness about the 9 dimensions and how, we're protected as we go into the higher dimensions if we're very strong and healthy in the lower ones. And that's why we always keep saying we've got to do these practices. We've got to keep our physical bodies, our rootedness, our groundedness connected to nature, healthy lifestyle and habits, and so on, because it's that the health of our lower energies, our lower chakras, that create the sort of stabilizing foundation for the evolution of our higher consciousness and higher dimensions coming in, right? So this feels to me like what you're speaking about is, it's the messiness down in the lower energies, but we can't just bypass that and try to pop out of that into the higher. We got to do the work down there to heal and clear that in ourselves. Obviously, this is the place you have the most agency within you. And if you can stand strong and be healthy in your first 3 chakras, right? Your root chakra, your sacral, and your power center, then, you can then come into this beautiful heart-centered frequency and not be, I want to say, intimidated by that messy manipulation. Basically, they hook into us where we're weak. So let's have a look here. Is this happening in the lower timelines? Are they associated with the lower levels, the lower dimensions? Yeah, right. Definitely. 2 swords. I want to say it's pretty easy to program fear into the lower dimensions.
Right.
Okay. So, that's interesting. This is like having to take a break and walk away. So I've said this for a really long time. We're talking about the lower timelines. It almost feels like we get bumped back into them when we get anxious and overwhelmed. We're bumped back into the lower timeline, just like the lower dimension.
Right.
And so if you get that, if you're kind of at that point where you're starting to like max out on what you can integrate, take a break. This is that literally what I did today. Go have a walk down by the water, go somewhere, have a time to recuperate yourself and get back into your grounded frequency.
Right.
He's also about saying no way, like making a good boundary as well.
Yeah. Powerful. That's 2 swords and cups.
2 swords and a cups. Yeah. 8 of cups. So this is like we've got to step away when we start feeling like emotionally, I want to say something's missing. There's a missing piece. And if we keep going with this 8 of cups and don't go step away, it's sort of like the vision quest or the take a step back. If we don't do that, then we end up going down some of those negative spirals. So it feels like it's the lower timelines, and how do we stay out of them?
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, and that's something that I've been feeling a lot as well and talking about quite a bit is, Pluto going into Aquarius and us entering the age of Aquarius, I feel like Aquarius rules timelines and quantum physics in astrology. Mm-hmm. And once Pluto, the planet of power and revealing, goes into Aquarius, I feel like that's where we're really on that new kind of higher timeline, if you will. And a lot of Pluto and Capricorn has been playing out, like you said, Ashala, those two timelines at the same time, because we can't just go into the 5D, into the love and light without the dark night of the soul, without those intense learning experiences. Is actually part of it, right? So that's kind of how I feel about that. So can we do a collective reading for all of us? It's a very intense moment. It's election day as we're filming this. Do you want to do it specifically around the election, Ashala, or one for us just in general? What do you feel like?
Well, I mean, I think we can't avoid looking at the election. Oh, look who's here. Jean-Claude.
Hello.
Drum roll, just showed up right as we're about to do a poll on the election.
My ears must have been burning. How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
Good. I've been spending the last hour preparing the slide deck for the huge election coverage night. Jenny and I are starting at 9 p.m. tonight. I'm already tired. I'm like, oh my god, this is going to be a long night, but it's going to be fun and very exciting, to say the least. So I saw you guys were live. I was doing the posting stuff. I'm like, let me go listen to what these guys have to say. I was interested. And Meg, I actually sent you a message earlier. I didn't know you were live yet, and I said, hey, do you want to come on for a segment tonight on the special election nights? If you want to come on later, that'd be cool to have you on too. Yeah, okay, cool.
For sure. Good. Yeah, well, so cool you just came on. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but we just got Lewis 2 says Trump wins Indiana and Kentucky. So is that confirmed, JC? Have you heard anything about that yet?
Let's go look at Axios. Indiana, Kentucky. Yeah, it's on the board as red already. Let me see if I can share that with you guys. I'm not sure exactly why that would be. Why that poll was closing earlier than not. So I don't know if this is a projection now.
Wow. Yeah. Are those already called?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at here. Hold on.
Okay.
Can I get more details on this? Trump with the check mark. Oh, yeah, the huge. Yeah, so they probably called it. See, it's 11% of expected votes reporting. Can you see that on the screen?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think the spread is so large that they're confident in calling it.
Wow.
Yeah, we do that here too sometimes in Canada. Mm-hmm. So that'll be interesting to see. And the same thing for Indiana. For some reason, it's not popping up when I put my cursor. Oh, yeah, there you go. 15% or 16% reporting right now. And yeah, pretty big margin there, 61% to 36%. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's going to be one hell of a night, guys. That's for sure.
It's going to be a night. We just were getting the lay of the land for right now, for this moment.
Yeah.
And, well, I start off with the yes card.
What was? Oh, hold on. I missed it as I was logging in. What was the question behind this poll?
It was just, we had just been tuning in with energies and stuff like that. And then we were about to look at the election, where things are at right this moment, like just where we're at. Mm-hmm. So right this moment, we've got a yes. So there's a, like, that could be first calls coming in and it's a yes. And then over the next 4 hours, I'm getting, so we're waiting. There's going to be, I want to say probably a quarter of the results are going to be lagging. So where I'm getting like around, I'm getting maybe 10 o'clock tonight. Now, let me just pull on, is that where I am? Because I'm only at, 4 in the afternoon right now. That's 6 hours. We got 6 hours to wait. Let me just pull. Actually, it feels like it's right between where we are. So like, let's say we would be halfway between where we are right now. It would be 4:30, 5:30, 6 o'clock. So 4 hours. That's funny because that's what I was kind of getting here too. Okay. So, and it looks like a big win, folks. Woo-hoo. It looks like a big win right now. That's where it's looking.
Let me play a clip awesome. Here. I set it up for tonight. We'll get back into it a little bit later here too. But you know how in the last couple of weeks, we're hearing kind of like this predictive programming that, oh, they're not going to be able to certify the votes. All the votes won't be counted. We might have to wait weeks, blah, blah, blah. So they're kind of dissuading us from staying up tonight and watching the election. Although Trump has been out today 3 times saying, and he said it funny in a funny way. He said, stay online, stay online. And he typed it in on Real Trump and on Truth Social. He didn't mean stay in line to vote. So he's talking about something online. So he's basically, I think he's kind of hinting that, oh no, stay up tonight or online watching all this stuff. You're going to get some news here. Because you remember when he first ran, they stopped counting the votes at 9 or 10 p.m. in a couple of jurisdictions, and nothing was happening. Everybody went to bed. Hillary Clinton came out, and John Podesta said, oh, you go home, everybody. It'll be a couple of days, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly when Trump walked on stage, then suddenly Wolf Blitzer was like, okay, we have the results now. Trump won, right? But nothing was happening for 5-6 hours. They were either trying to steal it, trying to change the results somehow. So I don't know. So it appears that could be tonight. And this article here, Shadow of Ezra posted this a couple of hours ago. NBC is gearing up for what they call a possible, quote, red mirage on election night, where Trump could start out leading in key swing states, as we're seeing now on the map, only to see a blue shift as late counted ballots swing towards the Democrats. Sound familiar?
Yes.
So they're kind of fucking with us there. So anyways, but Trump seems to be saying here in some of his tweets, yeah, stay online here. Don't go anywhere. So keep going. Ashala.
Well, that's pretty much it. So 10 o'clock, and this is a fantastic card. It's such a everybody together, a community win. It looks good for the financial markets. It looks good for bringing back prosperity to the economy. It's just a very positive card.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He keeps talking about getting back to a golden era. He retweeted that earlier today also. Yeah. So very fascinating.
Yeah, look at that. Wow. I mean, and there's the golden sword right there, right? There's this, we're waiting for the golden sword, which is just being formulated as we speak.
Wow.
I feel, honestly, it's weird because we did the show last night on the pay-per-view. We did a special election coverage night, and every poll we had, we looked at different angles. We looked at the Brunson case maybe coming out, the banking situation. What else did we look at? Well, we looked at, generally speaking, where the election was going, if they were going to steal it or not. And on every poll, it was oddly very positive towards Team Humanity. Yeah. And at a certain point, like Janine and I were like, is this too good to be true? Like, this is like,
well, I mean, look here, like everybody, it's not like I'm playing with the cards. Like, there's scary looking cards in here, right? It's like,
well, that's what I mean. It's kind of like, well, we still have to question ourselves, right? Like,
like, that guy.
Yeah, that's the bad guy. But in the last number of years, if you had asked me, oh, do a poll on this or this or this angle, my response or my wish would have been what Janine was polling last night. It would have been what Clefai was bringing up also on the last show we did on the Sunday night, the Wacky Woo edition. This one too, guys, if you haven't seen this show, first of all, we hit number 1 on Rumble for the first time ever. So we were top of the board there on the Rumble leadership. So big thank you to all the fans for supporting us. But what was interesting to me in this conversation too was like, oh yeah, we're crossing that threshold now, and that's why I called the show for tonight also a rendezvous with destiny. Can you hear it? So we're hearing the rumblings of that. We're feeling it in the air. People can't really explain it, but that's what I mean about I feel giddy, but at the same time, I'm trying to check myself. Like, am I being too optimistic? I don't want to set myself up for a disappointment if and when it comes, or if the Democrats are trying to steal this again, or who knows what else. They're saying they're going to test these ballistic missiles tonight on the coast of the U.S. on election night. Why? What the fuck's going on? So there's a lot of weird stuff there. But yeah, I'm excited about tonight. I'm excited for the future of humanity. I just watched the interview between Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. And Joe was basically saying a big thank you to Elon Musk, saying, hey, if you hadn't bought Twitter, we wouldn't be where we are today. right?
Yeah.
And I was listening to Viva Frey earlier also. He's a legal expert, commentator. And he was saying, yeah, the fact that we have at least some enclaves of free speech right now is really preventing these guys from doing the big steal. Whereas in 2020, if you were going to report something that was happening illegally at a polling station, your Twitter was just disconnected, or your Facebook post was deleted or was throttled back. So nobody was really looking at it. Now we're on this. And in the last 2 weeks, like, so many cases have been ruled in favor of election integrity, if you want to call it that way. So the absentee ballots, the illegal alien stuff, the cops preventing people from voting in line, like, all of these things are being ruled on very, very carefully and quickly. So that's very encouraging also.
Yeah.
What are you guys feeling? Where do you guys stand today?
It's just interesting that you're pointing out all the differences between now and the last one, right? Like, I think that's very powerful for us to not get sunk back into the, oh no, like you said. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
That we recognize that this is a new moment. This is a new moment in time, and we are really making history. And so we were just talking about, I had watched your show with Janine yesterday, and we were talking about that, like fending off that negative dark force energy. And it really is it is a very weak energy. Like, we are so much stronger than that. We just need to recognize, I was making the comparison of, if you are around a dog that has vicious tendencies and you show fear, it calls it to you, right? It's like they can smell fear and they just go at you. Yeah. So it's that energy of, we are in, like you said, we are in such a different place in terms of the radical sovereign stance that we have because of these open source platforms where we can share information, and it's so much has shifted.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Meg, how do you feel today? I see a comment on screen. It says, yes, I got up this morning laughing, feeling joy and excitement. Where are you, Meg, in all of this?
It's funny because I was just about to ask you before you just said it. So you must have been reading my mind. How are you feeling, JC? Because I'm actually, this way you feel is how I feel. I'm feeling like optimistic, totally hopeful for humanity. No doubt in my mind that team love and freedom is winning.
Yeah.
But also being like, okay, am I being overly optimistic? Are we getting duped? Is there something we didn't see? Is it all going to fuck up? What's going to happen?
Am I missing a curveball somewhere? Like, I'm putting my head in the stand, like I'm smoking too much opium or whatever. But I asked Janine that question last night too. And she says, well, look at the cards. Like, there's no big tower card. There was no like a devil card. Like, and on multiple pulls, we were getting the same thing. Now, we did get, so it wasn't all like sunshine and roses, but it's like the outcome from what I saw on the show last night was, hey, it's positive. It's going in our direction. There are a few still unintended consequences that could and will create havoc, not necessarily ubiquitously across the board, but in some regions. But at the same time, there were countermeasures already in place. And that relates to what Cliff was saying the other day about the rumors coming out now about the Brunson case, maybe already haven't been voted on, and that this is a type of strategy card, and that it might drop at any time here, or maybe to keep them in check here as we move forward here in this election process. I'm like, oh, wow, like that's a big game changer. It brings in mind the visuals of the remote viewing from Dick Allgaier, where the crunching congressman crying, puking, transfer of power for the last time and all that. So we could be close to that. Let me ask you to pull on this, Ashala. Like, last night I went to bed and I thought, well, in the last 4 years, when we saw the result of the last election, a lot of us looking at this in a serious way, we're like, okay, something's wrong. Something happened. We couldn't quite put our finger on it. There was a lot of truthers out there saying it was this and it was that and it was the ballots, and like, so we had a bunch of excuses or reasons, but we couldn't really tie it all together. And at the same time, we had hope that it was so obvious that something was wrong that it would come, or that justice was just around the corner. And every month we had these truthers come out, this date, so and so is going to be thrown out, and this is, here's the return of the dawn, and all these things, and all these dates came and gone, and as that proceeded, most of us in the community are starting to feel like down and down, like, holy fuck, how long is it going to take for justice to happen, right? So as I look at the situation now, just in the last 2 weeks, I feel like, okay, now we're close to that justice. It was apparent, we didn't know at the time, but we needed to wait a whole 4 years. We all thought, oh, maybe a couple months, maybe a year, blah, blah, blah. And we were perhaps kidding ourselves, or maybe being too optimistic about the reality of the program, or the educational program that needed to happen to bring us to where we are now, and also the institutional changes that needed to happen, including X and Rumble, right? So now we have all these pieces coming together, and that took a lot of time. And so my question is now, could it take another 4 years? I don't know. I can't take another 4 years, but could it take another 4 years, or are we here now? That's what I want.
Okay, so I'm getting, first of all, interesting when you were saying that about, what if something goes wrong? Like, or maybe we're being too optimistic. And what I feel, the cards are reflecting where the truth of the overall tenor of humanity is. So they can still pull a whole bunch of, sly moves or shenanigans or whatever. There can still be a lot of spanners thrown in the works, but we are beyond, I don't want to say beyond caring, but we're just not going to react in the way that they want us to. And therefore we've won. Like everything that's coming in terms of the challenge around the transition. This is a big change, right? It's a big transition, the death card. Everything that's coming, when something is dying, it's not a nice, graceful process. Oftentimes it takes a while. This is a time card. But we've learned how to be mature. It's not just about waiting. It's about holding space. We're not going to get even psyched out the way we did 6 months ago. Like, it's whatever's comes at us now is making us stronger, because this guy is so emotionally strong. He's resilient. He can handle it. And what I'm getting is, like, we've already won because we're at this place. Now we're just watching the final, credits of the movie, right? It's like, there's still going to be the possibility of getting like psyched out because there's chaos still unfolding. But overall, I think we're going to see the tide has turned. One thing you can say about this death card, it's beyond the point of no return. And the momentum that moves it in the new direction is so powerful that there's no stopping it. It is a wave of change. And we're already on the inside track. So I just keep saying, some people, this might be just the beginning of the worst couple of years of their lives if they're just waking up, right?
Oh, for sure. Cliff posted something the other day. He mentioned it in the show. He says, well, I don't know why he said November 7 and not November 6, which is odd, and I forgot to ask him about it. It was such a big show. But at any rate, he said on November 7 is when it starts, when the real work starts for all of us, right? And he said that, I think he reposted that earlier today, suggesting that it was going to be incumbent upon us, the people watching these shows, like holding the line of truth and freedom, to really be there, perhaps for the people who are going to be fractured in their mind as to the new reality that's going to hit them. So on one hand, I understand that, but I also think that he meant something about, well, now that we have the opportunity and perhaps the upper hand to remove the 7th floor group, the cabal, like the rot or the swamp in DC, once that's removed, then the work really begins in terms of building what it is we want for us in terms of governing structures, financial systems, and all that stuff. So by all means, again, in that sense, it's not all sunshine and roses. Yes, okay, we might have this opportunity for the first time in 1,000 years to remove this monkey off our back, but now we have to, get our hands dirty and get shit done. So that's
and heal the wounds on our back, right?
That too.
Yeah. It's pretty, it's a little gruesome, right? We're all a little bit like, but this is such a healing card. There's a lot of ways you can read it, but I often call him like the counselor, the healer. He is so, like, he has the resilience, the emotional maturity to wait it out, to go through whatever.
Yeah.
Almost without being phased. You know, this would be like a triple Scorpio, Meg.
Mhm.
The king of water, you
Mm.
know. Yeah, he's definitely capable of navigating, you know, as it gets messy, because the death process and the coming apart of things, there's still a degree of messiness. Now, I'm getting a bit of a timeline here. I'm
Okay.
getting that we are about halfway through, a little more than half, so 60% of the way through. So if this is a year and a half, so 18 months, then we would be just a little more. We'd be about 10 months through that, and we might have about 8 months before. So that lines up quite well with some of the predictions Janine was making about
Oh,
May or
hold
June.
on. Align me temporally speaking. Why are you talking about 18 months?
What I'm talking about, this death card often relates to an 18-month process. And when I see the
okay.
6 of Wands, it's
We're
like
halfway
we're
through.
already winning. We were already 60% of the way
Mhm.
through.
Ah,
So then we may have, if it's an 18-month process, we might have another, you know, 60%. Oh, it's going to be less. It's going to be like, yeah,
right.
7
No,
months.
but I understand. Oh, now I understand why you say. So the death card usually is an 18-month process. Okay, I was trying to see if you had an
It can
event.
be a long, and
Can
that's
be.
a timeline I associate with the death card. So
Okay.
it doesn't mean that nothing's going to change before that time. The change
Right.
is already on us. It's already been changing.
Yeah.
It's already been changing for years, actually. It's just, you know, like anything, when you're moving, when you're cleaning or renovating, that last 20-30%, right? It's like, are we ever going to be done this? So there's still work to be done, as Jean-Claude is saying. There's still things to be healed. There's still work in that. It's not woo. I mean, yes, we can definitely have the celebration and be like, we knew it. Now it's out, right? You know, the victory dance. And there's still a lot of work, just like, you know, post World War II, when they had their victory day. It's like, okay, but then the cleanup was a couple of years, right?
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
remember in those movies when you look at the celebrations of the World War II ending, you know, soldiers are dancing in the streets and oops, they fall in on these booby trap bombs on statues and people are still dying, right? So there's still, that's what I'm expecting. There's still going to be some booby traps here, whether that's at the banking level, political level, who knows, some of these whatever contingency plans those guys who are losing now had in place, how that kind of rolls out moving forward. So we still need to be vigilant. So that's what I mean about I'm super optimistic, but at the same time, like I don't want. I still keeping my eyes peeled on the horizon to see what could be around the corner. Wow.
Totally.
What's
Optimistic
the
and realistic, Jean-Claude.
Yeah, that's me for sure. What does the astrology say, Meg?
Well, I was just going to add there, I love that the death card is coming up because today the moon ingressed into Capricorn. Pluto is in Capricorn. Today and tomorrow are the last 2 days of Pluto and the moon both being in Capricorn in our lives. So we are in a death. We are in a huge death point right now. Capricorn rules the governments, the politicians, the matrix, the dark arts cabal elites, right? And so today and tomorrow can feel really heavy, but like you were saying with is it the 5 of Wands? What was that? 6 of Wands?
The 6. It's the victory card.
We know that Team Freedom is victorious, but there's still, like you were saying, JC, the sludge and the death, and we're still in the trenches, and there still is a long way to go. I wish that wasn't the truth, but that's just what I feel, because there is going to be that fallout of major mental health issues of people, you know, we've talked about it a lot on the shows on Beyond Mystic, right? The mental health issues of realizing you've been brainwashed, realizing you had things put in the arm that were not what you were told they were, like all these things. So, and it's interesting what you were bringing up with November 7th, because that's when the moon moves into Aquarius.
Maybe
there's
that's what
a
he's picking up on.
huge shift.
He said it was a huge emotional kind of like tension. So I don't know if it was a build-up or release language, but he was picking that up on his emotional reduction engine software he was talking about. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a huge Capricorn Saturn energy today and tomorrow, with not just the moon and Pluto in Capricorn for the last time in our lives, but the sun in trine to Saturn exact today and tomorrow. Saturn's the ruling planet of Capricorn, and Saturn is about reality checks. And Saturn rewards you I always make the joke, if you've been a good boy or a good girl. So those of us that are on Team Freedom, we've been in very uncomfortable situations. Saturn's looking at us like, congratulations, look, we got the fireworks going off behind me right now. Saturn's like, I'm very proud of all those freedom fighters because it's been a long road.
Oh,
It's been years now that we've been holding the line. He's like, I'm going to give them a little reward, but we're not over yet. We're not over yet. There's still some things to go through.
So just enough to realize it was worth it to be standing out in the cold all these years, being the black sheep of the family, not invited to Christmas and all of that. Suddenly it was like, okay. The other thing too, both you, Meg, and Janine, doing the astrology for me, and as it pertains to Beyond Mystic, did pick up also that this year, starting this year, more and more people were coming to us, and we're seeing it now, hitting the #1 on Rumble. We're seeing it in the how you call it, the interaction on the shows, also the number of commenters, the likes, and all that too. So we're seeing more people move to this reality, but that apparently is just the beginning. And I was talking to Cliff after the show too, and he says, "Dude, you don't know what's about to hit you. Like, there's a huge onslaught of people here who are about to wake up. Like, some of them will wake up quickly." Attune quickly and be part of this new reality. Some of them will drag behind. They're going to be slack-jawed. They're going to have a fracture of the mind. We're going to have to take care of them like as if they're little children, basically. He did say that live at the end of the show. But he said that ultimately, he mentioned something else about, I wasn't sure if he said Beyond Mystic or me personally, but something to the effect that we would be one of the few, I'm trying to paraphrase what he said, that would make the crossover or the transition between what is now alternative media to whatever the new media is going to be. The old media is already dead. The legacy media, we already know they're dead and buried almost. But he said that even now in this alt media space, a lot of the people there don't survive this, and they only a few will cross over to that next part. And he suggested that we would be part of that somehow. I'm curious. Do you want to pull cards on that, Ashala, and see where that goes?
Definitely.
On one hand, it's an honor. It's also, I guess, frightening in a way. You know what I mean? Like, what does that entail? What does that mean? But I think I sleep good at night thinking that, okay, well, if we were, because the main comment you guys get in your emails every day that we get on the box is like, oh my God, JC, if it wasn't for you guys, we would have been sane for the last 4 years, right? You kept us sane for the last 4 years, right? So like, okay, that feels really good. But at the same time, it does involve like a change in the way we do things, because we were basically fighting a war, and now we're going to I guess transform our effort into creating the new also. So that bridge is not for everybody, basically, is what Cliff was saying. And we see that in politics a lot of times. We see candidates that are really good at battling out for elections to gain power, but then once they're in power, they don't know what to do or how to govern or how to create when they're in power. They only know how to fight, right? And so that transition is difficult for these politicians. So I'm wondering if it's the same kind of thing here when we talk about alt media moving into this new space into the new world. Ashala, what do you see?
Okay, well, Meg, I have a question for you. What do we see going on with Mercury in the next year or two? Because I'm getting this media card here. The magician often has to do with, among other things, the internet and media outlets, sources, and communication, and so on. And I love what you said, Jean-Claude, that, I feel like, well, we already have these things in place, right? We're going to be starting to launch some of these, some of my classes are about building new systems, and some of the other, offerings coming up are related to that. So it feels like we're already kind of on that thin edge of the wedge to begin with. This is interesting, but I'm curious about Mercury, because I'm wondering about the aspects and what that transition is going to look like.
Well, that's interesting, because Mercury is the fastest moving planet. So he does many similar transits all throughout the year. But Jupiter right now is in the sign of Gemini. Mercury is the ruling planet of Gemini. So Mercury is what we call the dispositor of Jupiter. That's a little bit technical, astro woo-woo. But with Jupiter being in Gemini, this is a huge expansion of alternative media, freedom of truth, freedom of speech. So it's going to start to become even more cool than it already is. It's already become cool.
What I was getting. What is the timing of that, Meg? Just
Jupiter's in Gemini. Well, it started end of May this year, and it's going to be there until June 2025.
Okay, so really, we have another year of that, exactly what we're just saying, bringing out all this truth information to people who are just waking up. I feel like that there's these little seeds being planted, which is it feels almost like another at least 6 months, maybe even a year before we really transition into more of the solutions and building the new, because there's going to be a need for people will be going back and watching the old videos. So you may be wanting to gather together some of the old material that feels relevant and bring that forward, and then create some new shows that are like just kind of touching back in on some of those things that it's just like old news to us, but it's not going to be old news to the new community, to the new. Right. So I just get that you're going to be, that we are going to be in a position of still having a real relevant role to play in continuing to bring out all that shadow information for at least another year.
At least another year. Okay. It makes sense, because even though like a lot of the news is going to come out, and apparently that's what's coming out in the Webbot data, Janine pulled on that yesterday with the big pyramid spread, it takes a lot of time for people to absorb it. So there's going to be like a big staccato, I think is the word, rapid fire of all of this information. And then it takes a while for that to come out and people to digest, and also people to do the cross links. We did talk about that in the show, to where, oh yeah, see that thing? That's what happened in blah, 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 blah. When Hillary said this thing over here, we're going to say, oh, they were calming this already, right? So we're going to kind of have to go back and look at those deltas, perhaps from the Q posts and other comms that we've seen over the last number of years. Now, the devil part in the middle, is there a bedeviling part? Or when you see the magician, is it because there's something around the corner also? Like, for example, here on YouTube, Joe Rogan just explained this on the interview with Elon Musk. He was being throttled back on his interview with Trump, to where you would type it in and you couldn't even find it in the search engine. And even though he was getting 1.5 million views per hour, he wasn't showing up on the site as in trending. So clearly somebody was throttling back, putting him in the sandbox. Now, Beyond Mystic's been deleted 3 times here on YouTube, and to some extent still is not being promoted, not being shared the way perhaps other channels are being shared. Does that change here? And when does that change? How does that change after the election?
You know, I feel like it does change. I feel like it does change pretty rapidly, because look at all the really, really good cards here around that devil. Like there's so much. To me, it feels like after this, now how long after, I don't know. Are we looking at a week? Are we looking at a month? But it really does feel like it's going to be a whole new game, basically. But we're still a little gun shy, right? Like there's still going to be some, like, and it feels like it's okay to talk about that. To somebody I just noticed said a year in review. Wouldn't that be awesome? Of like a year of going back over the story. And I think it's okay to talk about like how tricky it's been, because I feel like that information is important for people to be almost like process what's happened, because it's all just taken us by surprise and we've all just been hanging in together, getting through it. But it's like a debriefing, basically.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Murdoch says, JC, I feel like you're going to need a much bigger venue for the Beyond Mystic conference. Yeah, Jenny and I were saying that last night too, as we were looking at the strategic polls on the different angles we were looking at. It feels like a big party is coming, right? And then so I was like, uh-oh, maybe the venue we already rented out for the March event is going to be sold out. I don't know. We're going to cap out. Right now, the VIP passes and Mystic passes sold right away as soon as we went live. And I was talking to the venue, what if that happens? Like, can I have access to other rooms that are around us? And they said for now it's possible. So who knows? We might have a really big party there in March in Ottawa. Guys, check it out on Don Mystic if you want to join us for that. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Crazy times. Meg, what do you feel in terms of the astrology behind new technology, new communication platforms? Because I think that with the magician card, there's an aspect about that, right? Because a couple of years ago, we couldn't imagine when we were being deleted off YouTube, and then we went to Patreon, we got deleted there. It was the beginnings of Rumble. They weren't really like, they were barely standing on their feet at that time. We didn't have a free speech Twitter either. What else is coming up? Like, is the astrology like backing this up to more and more of these platforms here for free speech, and maybe stuff that we haven't even thought of right now that could really change the games even further and accelerate this year in review and waking up process for the audience? Like, what's the astrology behind that?
Definitely. And I think I might have said this to you and Janine one time on a Beyond the News show. I think there's going to be huge court cases having to do with YouTube and Facebook, and not big organizations with we the people like you, JC. Don't mean to put anything on you, but you were someone that you lost. How many channels did you lose? Three.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that there will be court cases. It will be more easy to do for people where the freedom of speech was taken away. Right, because that is supposed to be one of our core fundamental rights in supposed Western society. So, Jupiter in Gemini is not just luck and abundance and expansion of all those Gemini ruled areas, such as the media, news, freedom of speech. Jupiter, similar to Saturn, also rules law and order and balance. Okay, so with Jupiter in Gemini, the whole time he's been in Gemini so far, he's been in a square to Saturn. But as we go into 2025 with Pluto ingressing into Aquarius, the sign that rules the internet, technology, freedom, the sign that rules freedom. Okay, we've been in Pluto and Capricorn. That's why everything has been so heavy and effed up, and it's felt such a long journey in the trenches. Once that Pluto goes into Aquarius, whoa, there's innovations that none of us are even talking about coming forward.
What month is that?
That's in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. It was November, I thought. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's exciting.
So I think lots of huge new innovations, new platforms, but also not all the old ones are going to go away and die. They're going to have to go through that like court
transformation.
If you want to go into the future, you need to take accountability for what you did during this period.
Because think about it. Now we know through the Twitter files that the government had backdoor access to a lot of these social medias to where they can go in and delete people without due process, right? And then we also know that these orders were deleted kind of 2 weeks after the fact, so that they weren't even there. There wasn't even a log of them doing that. Let's just make it even more crazy. And that was coming out of the Twitter files. But what was interesting too is this Hunter Biden laptop story. At the time, I did lose a YouTube channel on that, and there was enough evidence to suggest that we should at least be looking at it at the time. And I was having debates with people on the show, and we were deleted for misinformation because at that time, 51 intelligence agencies had signed this letter saying that the Hunter Biden laptop story was fake Russian propaganda, right, and disinformation. Well, here we are a couple of years later. The FBI has a laptop. They admitted they had the laptop. They did investigations on it. Hunter's facing 17 years in jail for it. All this stuff. But yet I'm like, yeah, but you guys deleted my channel. You deleted, I don't know, at the time, 60 or 70,000 subscribers that I had to rebuild again from zero. Lost the ad revenue I had at that time, which is what helps us, do the work that we do with the ad revenues so that we can keep the lights on. So it was a huge damage to not just me personally, but like everybody else that does what I do, like just trying to bring out the truth here. So some type of reparation has to happen. Now, me personally, I don't really care about it. I'm more focused on just doing my stuff. But you're right. In terms of settling the energy and taking accountability, and healing from that process, and also educating people as to what happened so that it never fucking happens again, right? So that we can have control over our reality and have an input, and we don't go back to the burning books type of speak. So it's a crazy time when you look at it. And man, it's funny because when I say that story to friends, they get super angry at the dinner table, whatever. And I'm like, huh, I'm not as angry as you are. But then sometimes it hits me, fuck, maybe I should be. Like, that was rough.
Yeah.
Like, I swear to God.
I was just totally. I was just thinking that when you said, like, I've got other things to do. I'm not really interested in. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you're such an icon, right? So if you, like, it's almost like setting precedents, class action suits. Like, I think it could be something that is worth putting some energy towards, because it's not just about the individual getting the reparation that they deserve. It's about all of us having the agency to, like you say, ensure this doesn't happen again. And if people like you don't call them out and, make them accountable.
Yeah.
And who knows, like, I think that when all the different rollouts of the different financial supports that are available to us begin to really come, it's like it sort of behooves us to take that step and say, yeah, I would like to receive reparation for what's been taken from me.
Yeah. And like, Janine lost her channel also, so that pisses me off more, honestly. Like, come on. Why are you guys deleting Janine? Like, I get that maybe I was pushing a little bit more, like, I was having heavy interviews with people, and people who might have been saying things at the time that, could have been construed as not appropriate in terms of national security stuff and all that. And it's always hard to navigate stuff when we're doing live shows, right? So I admit that maybe I was pushing the boundaries a little bit too much. But for me, in terms of reparations for the channel, or for me, like I said, I wasn't really I have to say, like, I don't really ever think about that. Because to me, losing the channels and going through that process of having to rebuild a couple of times, I always found that it was a universe giving me personally kind of an education process, or kind of an opportunity to quit, to go sulking in the corner, or to just get back up on the horse and do what you had to do. And here we are today, right? So in that view, I'm like, I thank universe for that process. Like, it made me stronger. And it made me realize that, no, when you have a conviction for something, you have to show the way, lead the way, and lead by example. And as hard as it was, and as scary as it was, because I remember all of this happened at the same time as COVID, don't forget, right? So my business before COVID was internet marketing. And within 2 weeks of the lockdowns here in Canada, all of my clients had canceled. Because, like, well, JC, we can't pay marketing when the government just closed their business. So I went like from, wow, I'm paying my bills and I'm paying my mortgage and I'm putting food on the table for my kids, to, fuck, there's nothing left. It's all gone, right? And so YouTube, when that left also, it was like, it was scary times. That I remember being stressed out of my mind, and also having the thought, and this is maybe is the kicker, I had the thought maybe once or twice, do I just go back to the Matrix? It was so easy. I was killing it in the Matrix. I used to be in the Matrix world, right? And then I came out, I'm in the woo. And I struggled for that a little bit. And I was looking at myself in the mirror a lot, like, do I just like pretend, and like in Orwell, like, yeah, I see 5 lights instead of the 4 lights, and just go back? And I'm like, nope, can't do it. As hard as it is, I knew deep down, like, no, you got to do the fight. You got to stay true. And here we are. So again, to me, this is a positive experience. Universe providing me with that experience and those challenges to I guess, to make me a better man, to make me a better person, a better human. So I don't really care about the. What I would take, though, is my subscribers back. Because every time we lost subscribers, those people disappeared. I'm like, I'd love that. Like, just add that back to my queue that I have now, so those people can find me again. Because that'd be cool. And maybe unthrottle me for once, so I could just let loose, and people can actually see my channel. That'd be cool.
So I don't know if you're aware, but I still have a YouTube channel, and I actually was 1 strike away from getting cut.
Oh yeah.
And me. I'm like so mellow and so sweet. And, it's like, I mean, the things that they called me on were unbelievable things. Like, so yeah. And so therefore, even things like, I always look back and think I would have spoken differently had I felt that I had the freedom to speak more
Oh, yeah.
truthfully, it still would have been, I still would have been, you know, like I wouldn't have pushed things too far, but it really shows us, you know, we all have a different way of adapting to these things, but we all suffered. All of us suffered. Yeah. So,
You know, you talk about strikes. On my first YouTube channel, I never got a strike. They just yanked me. Like, no excuse, no strikes, no warning. I'm like, what? Where's the due process? Like, you know what I mean? At least you have a strike. You're like, oh, okay, don't touch that subject or change your words around this or blah, blah, blah. No strikes whatsoever. And then I wake up this morning and I had like a gazillion email in my queue. JC, what happened to BM? And I'm like half awake, drinking my coffee. I'm like, what's BM? Oh, Beyond Mystic. Okay, what do you guys mean? So then I open up my YouTube channel. This channel has been removed for severe multiple offenses. I'm like, what? Like I'm a rapist of some kind, you know? And it's like my kids are seeing that, you know? Like, what did you do, Daddy? I'm like, fuck, I don't know. I've repeatedly tried to tell the truth. Is that really my crime? Oh my god.
yeah.
It was so weird having to deal with the kids too, and having them understand why this was so important, not just to me personally, but for humanity too. And they were younger at the time. It was crazy times. So yeah, all that in context with the scale of the events that are before us tonight, like I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I think everything had to happen for a reason. We're all, like you said, we all suffered to some extent, but we all grew from that experience also. And I think it's making for a kick-ass humanity moving forward. I think we're just on that verge now, and that to me is very exciting.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Are we wrapping up? How are we wrapping up here?
I think so. Yeah, we're at the hour mark. What time is the show, JC, with you and Janine, 9 p.m.?
Yeah, we're starting at 9. I might start a little bit earlier here to put some mainstream news coverage and commentary here before we go. But yeah, Janine, I think is going to come on at 9. Meg, you can come on anytime too if you want to do a segment. We'll look at astrology with you. That'd be really, really cool. So yeah, we're all set and ready to go. Well, thank you so much for letting me crash your party tonight. I thought it would be a cool drive run for the show here tonight. You guys are doing amazing as always. Guys, give Ashala and Meg a like here in the chat if you're there. Let us know how they're doing. And yeah, share the episodes with your friend and keep on watching. These guys are amazing. They're doing a lot of good work, as I see in the comments now. So yeah, really cool. I'll see you guys in about an hour. Meg, I'll let you sound off the show if you want.
Okay. Thanks, JC. See you soon.
Bye.
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 Awesome. What a fun show.
Right?
I think we're still live.
Yeah, we are still live. I was going to do our promos before we end.
Oh, okay. So I'll go. I'll go. I thought you were.
No.
Okay. I'll let you guys go. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you a little bit later. All right.
Okay.
Bye. That's cute. For sure they know we're live now, right?
Yeah, those people saying, you guys aren't live. Of course we're live. Unless we say we're pre-recording, we're live, okay? So before we finish up, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. Check out the new Psychic Protection Workshop redo on the Beyond Mystic Academy. That is available at the link below. Very important workshop. And also Haida inspired silver jewelry, beautiful, available at the link below as well. Handmade using silver and precious metals. This is a friend of Janine's over on the Haida that makes this beautiful handmade jewelry with crystals and metals. So all pieces are unique and limited quantities are available. And you guys know, of course, that you can find Ashala and I's readings over at consultations.beyondmystic.net. And Ashala, thank you so much for being your magical self.
Thank you, Meg. What a pleasure and an honor as always.
Yes.
And I'll see you on the other side of the election.
See you on the other side. Everybody stay well out there, stay grounded, and we'll see you next week. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.